The salvage team had been searching for 3 months. Dr. Kang Tae-oh stood at the observation window of the Coalition research ship, watching the asteroid field drift past. The rocks were old and broken, floating in the darkness of space. Nothing seemed special about this place. Nothing seemed important. But the sensors had detected something, and the Coalition did not ignore signals from the past. Kang Tae-oh was 53 years old. His hair had turned gray many years ago. He had spent his entire life studying the history of the galaxy, trying to understand the civilizations that had come before. He was a xenoarchaeologist, which meant he studied the remains of dead civilizations. Most of his work was boring. He would examine broken ships and old computers and try to understand how ancient peoples lived. But this job was different. This job was about the Precursors. The Precursors were legends. Every civilization in the galaxy had heard the stories. The Precursors had existed millions of years ago. They had been the first. They had built impossible things. They had seemed to understand technology in ways that no one else could. But then they had disappeared. Some people said they had died. Some people said they had left the galaxy. No one really knew. For thousands of years, the Precursors had been nothing but stories and myths. Most scientists did not even believe they had existed at all. But Kang Tae-oh believed. He had spent 20 years looking for proof. And now, finally, the sensors had found something. The ship moved closer to the largest asteroid. As it got closer, Kang Tae-oh's heart began to beat faster. Through the window, he could see it now. It was a ship, not a broken piece of rock, not a small wreck. It was a ship. A massive, beautiful, impossible ship. The Precursor battleship was larger than anything Kang Tae-oh had ever seen. It was built from a metal that seemed to shine even in the darkness. The design was strange and beautiful. Every line seemed to serve a purpose. Every curve seemed to be perfect. This was not a ship that had been built by accident. This was a ship that had been built by a people who understood everything about engineering and design and war. Kang Tae-oh immediately called Captain Han Mi-sun. The captain was the leader of the Coalition Navy team that had been sent to help with the mission. She was a tall woman with short black hair. Her eyes were always serious and focused. She did not smile often, but she was very good at her job. "We found it," Kang Tae-oh said into the communication device. "The ship is real. It is here." Captain Han did not respond for several seconds. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and careful. "I am coming to your location. Do not enter the ship. Do not touch anything. We need to understand what we are dealing with first." But before they could plan their next move, something unexpected happened. The ship began to send a signal. It was not a loud signal. It was not an aggressive signal. It was just a simple message, repeated again and again. The message was in a language that was thousands of years old. The computer on Kang Tae-oh's ship worked for almost an hour to translate it. Finally, the message appeared on Kang Tae-oh's screen. It said, "Power systems active. Defensive systems sleeping. Archive systems available for access." The ship was alive, or at least, parts of it were still working. Captain Han arrived an hour later. She had brought engineer Park Dae-jun with her. Park Dae-jun was a young man, only 32 years old. He was very smart with machines and technology. He had never been afraid of anything in his life. When he saw the Precursor ship, he smiled. "This is beautiful," he said. "This is absolutely beautiful." The three of them sat in a small shuttle as it moved toward the ship. Park Dae-jun kept looking out the window, trying to see every detail. Captain Han held a weapon in her hands, even though she knew it would probably not help if the ship decided to attack them. When they landed inside the ship, they found something surprising. The ship was not filled with dust and decay. The ship was clean. The lights were still working, though they were dim and very old. The air was safe to breathe, though it smelled strange, like metal and old electricity. Park Dae-jun moved to the nearest computer terminal. His hands moved quickly over the controls. Data began to appear on the screen. "There is so much information here," he said. "So much data. This computer has been storing information for millions of years." Captain Han moved through the ship slowly, her weapon ready. "What kind of information?" she asked. "Everything," Park Dae-jun said. "Records of star systems, maps of the galaxy, observations of civilizations, and—" he paused. "And something else. Something labeled as Priority Archive. The label is written in a very old language, but I think it means Important Memory or Record of Great Importance." Kang Tae-oh moved closer to the screen. His hands were shaking slightly. He had spent his entire life looking for this moment. He had spent so much time searching for proof that the precursors were real. And now, finally, he had found it. "Can you open it?" he asked. Park Dae-jun worked on the computer for several minutes. The screen flickered several times. Lines of strange code moved across the display. And then, finally, a file opened. What appeared on the screen made all three of them stop moving completely. It was a video recording. The quality was very good, even though it was millions of years old. It showed a precursor fighter. The fighter was moving through space, moving very fast, but it was not alone. Around the fighter, the screen showed dozens of other ships. They were attacking the precursor fighter. But the precursor pilot was moving in ways that seemed impossible. The fighter moved left and right, up and down, spinning and turning. Every movement was perfect. Every movement was exactly right. Then the precursor weapons fired. The weapons were beautiful and terrible. The enemy ships exploded one by one. In less than 2 minutes, all the attacking ships were destroyed. The precursor fighter did not even get hit once. The three people watched the video in complete silence. When it ended, Captain Han spoke first. "This is a record of battle, a precursor victory. But why would they keep this? Why would this be labeled as the most important record?" Park Dae-jun was about to answer when something strange happened. A new sound came from the computer speakers. It was a voice, a human voice, a young human voice. The voice was speaking in a language that was strange and new, not the old precursor language. The voice was speaking in Galactic Standard, the language that all the different civilizations in the galaxy used when they needed to talk to each other. The voice said, "Okay, so check out this maneuver at the 3:14 timestamp. See how the fighter pivots? That is actually really inefficient. The lateral thrust vectors do not align with—" Honestly, I sound so pretentious right now. This is embarrassing. Kang Tae-oh, Captain Han, and Park Dae-jun looked at each other. No one said anything for a very long time. Finally, Captain Han asked the question that they were all thinking. What was that? Who was speaking? Where did that voice come from? Park Dae-jun was already working at the computer again. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "I do not know," he said. "But I am going to find out. Because that voice is coming from Earth." Park Min-ho was sitting in his small apartment in Seoul when his computer made a strange sound. He was 22 years old and a student at Seoul National University. He was studying astrophysics because he loved to think about space and stars and the mysteries of the universe. His apartment was small and messy. Books were piled on the floor. Empty coffee cups sat on his desk, but his computer was very good, very fast, very new. He had been trying to do his homework, but homework was boring, so instead, he was watching a video. The video was about the discovery of the precursor ship that had been found near the star Kepler 442. The video had just been released by the coalition government. It was supposed to be secret, but secret information always found its way onto the internet. Min-ho was good at finding secret information. In the video, scientists were discussing the precursor ship and the battle that it had fought millions of years ago. The video showed the same battle that Kang Tae-oh had just watched on the other side of the galaxy. The precursor fighter was moving and fighting and destroying enemy ships with perfect movements. Minho was eating rice and drinking coffee as he watched. And then, without really thinking about it, he began to talk to the video. This was something he did often. He liked to explain things to his imaginary audience. He liked to think that he was a teacher, showing people the secrets of the universe. "Okay, look at this," Minho said to his computer. "The way the fighter is moving, it is good, yes, but it is not perfect. See the way it pivots at this point? That is using too much energy. The pilot is moving too much. A smarter pilot would use the momentum of the previous movement to help with the next movement. Like this, if the fighter was already moving to the left, then it could use that speed to help it move down faster. But instead, the pilot is fighting against that momentum. It is like trying to push a ball up a hill and then also pushing it to the side at the same time. You are wasting energy." Minho was so focused on the video that he did not notice what was happening. The transmission that he was watching was not just a regular video. It was somehow connected to the ancient Precursor systems. Somewhere across the vast distance of space, his words were being detected. His analysis was being recorded. The Precursor computer system was listening to him. "Honestly, I sound so pretentious right now," Minho said, laughing at himself. "This is embarrassing. But the point is, a human pilot could probably do that in half the time with better energy management. We would not waste so much power. We would think about efficiency. We would think about how to do more with less." He continued talking for another few minutes, explaining different parts of the battle. He talked about weapon trajectories and fuel conservation and tactical positioning. He was just a college student, really, just having fun analyzing something that he found interesting. He did not know that his words were traveling across the galaxy at the speed of light. He did not know that he was communicating with the most advanced technology that had ever existed. Then Minho's phone buzzed. He had received a message from his girlfriend, Lee Hae-won. Hae-won was also a student, but she was studying software engineering and computer science. She was very smart and very focused. She did not waste time the way that Minho sometimes did. Her message said, "Did you send me something? I got a very strange message. I think it is from your computer, but that makes no sense." Minho's first thought was that he had accidentally sent her something, but he had not been working on anything to send. He called her on the phone. "What kind of message?" he asked. "It came through the quantum communication system," Hae-won said. "But that system only works between government facilities and coalition ships. How is something from Earth using the quantum communication system?" Minho did not understand what she was talking about. "I do not know. What does the message say?" "It is just one sentence," Hae-won said. It says, "Human designated Park Minho. Your analysis of Precursor tactical systems has been registered. Please provide additional observations and recommendations. Respond with your location and identification." For several seconds, Minho could not speak. His mind was not working properly. His brain was trying to understand words, but the words made no sense. Finally, he said the only thing he could think of. "That is not real. That is some kind of joke. Someone is playing a trick on us." "Minho," Hae-won said slowly. "I checked the message source. It came from the Kepler 442 research area. It came from the Precursor ship. The message came from space. The message came from an alien computer. And it is looking for you." Minho sat down very quickly. The room began to spin a little. He felt sick in his stomach. "This is not happening," he said. "This cannot be happening. I was just making jokes about an old video. I was just having fun." But it was happening. On the other side of the galaxy, Kang Tae-o and Captain Han and Park Dae-jun were tracking the source of the voice. They were discovering that it had come from Earth. They were learning that a young human had somehow interacted with the most ancient and mysterious technology in the entire galaxy. And no one, absolutely no one, understood why. Lee Hae-won did something very smart. She made a copy of the message and she sent it to the government. Within 1 hour, government scientists were analyzing the message. Within 2 hours, they were contacting the coalition. Within 3 hours, the most powerful people in the galaxy knew that a human had somehow communicated with Precursor technology. Min-ho was still sitting in his apartment when his door was knocked on. Very loudly, very officially. He opened the door to find 3 people in government uniforms. They had very serious faces. They did not smile at all. "Park Min-ho," one of them said, "we need you to come with us. This is a matter of galactic security." As Min-ho was being taken away, he had only one thought in his mind. Why had he decided to criticize that old video? Why had he decided to talk about something that he did not understand? Why could he not just keep quiet and do his homework like a normal person? But of course, it was too late now. The universe had heard him speak, and the universe would never let him go back to being normal again. Lee Hae-won was waiting in the government facility when Min-ho arrived. They were both taken to a large room with many computers and screens and scientists. The room was very clean and very cold. The scientists did not explain anything. They just asked questions. They asked many questions for many hours. "How did you access the Precursor files?" one scientist asked. "I did not access anything," Min-ho said. "I was just watching a video on the internet. The video was about the Precursor ship." "But how did you communicate with the Precursor system?" another scientist asked. "I did not communicate with anything," Min-ho said. "I was just talking. I was just saying things about the video. I was criticizing the battle tactics, that is all." The scientists looked at each other. They seemed confused and frustrated. They did not understand how this had happened. They did not understand why a young college student could interact with technology that was millions of years old. Finally, a very old scientist came into the room. His name was Dr. Yoon-ji-woo. He was the head of the research division. He was not like the other scientists. He did not look angry or confused. He looked interested. He looked like he wanted to understand something. "Tell me everything," Dr. Yoon said to Min-ho. "Tell me exactly what you were thinking when you watched the video. Tell me exactly what you were saying. Tell me exactly how you were feeling." So Min-ho told him everything. He explained that the battle tactics seemed inefficient. He explained that the Precursor pilot was wasting energy. He explained that he thought a human pilot could do better. He explained that he was just having fun, just thinking out loud, just being a college student who liked to analyze things. Dr. Yoon listened to everything. When Min-ho had finished speaking, Dr. Yoon said something surprising. "The Precursor system was not designed to accept communication from humans. Your species is too primitive to interact with such technology. And yet, it responded to you. Do you understand how unusual that is? Do you understand what that means?" Min-ho shook his head. He did not understand anything. "It means," Dr. Yoon said, "that the Precursor system recognized something in your words. It recognized something valuable, something important. Something that the Precursor creators left behind in the system, waiting for someone like you to appear." At the same time, on the other side of the galaxy, Kang Tae-oh was making his own discovery. He and Park Dae-jun were working inside the Precursor ship, trying to understand the ancient computer systems. They were looking at the files that had responded to Min-ho's voice. What they found was extraordinary. The Precursor ship had a hidden program. The program was designed to search through all forms of communication in the galaxy. It was searching for something specific. It was searching for individuals who could think beyond the limitations of Precursor technology. It was searching for individuals who could see ways to improve the Precursor designs. "It is like a test," Park Dae-jun said, understanding what he was seeing. The Precursors created a system that would judge people. It would listen to their words. It would analyze their thinking. And if someone was creative enough, if someone was bold enough to say that something as advanced as Precursor technology could be improved, the system would register them. Captain Han was reading the ancient computer files. She found a message written in the old Precursor language. The translation was difficult, but Park Dae-jun was able to work it out. The message said, "If this message is being read, then the creator race is no longer present. The mission has failed. The civilization has fallen, but all is not lost. This archive has been left behind as a seed. Somewhere in the galaxy, there exists a species that can see beyond our limitations. There exists a species that will not worship us blindly. There exists a species that will take what we have built and improve it. This species will be marked by their boldness. They will be marked by their refusal to accept perfection. When you find this species, give them the knowledge they have earned. Do not teach them to worship the past. Teach them to build the future." Captain Han felt something strange in her chest. It was not quite fear. It was not quite excitement. It was something between the two. The precursors had not left behind a weapon or a treasure. They had left behind a test, and a human had passed the test. "We need to bring Park Min-ho here," Captain Han said. "We need to let him see the ship. We need to let him understand what his words have done." But there was a problem. The Coalition Council was meeting to decide what to do about Min-ho. Some people thought he was a threat. Some people thought he was dangerous. Some people thought that humans should not be allowed to interact with precursor technology. They were arguing about whether Min-ho should be kept in custody or allowed to go free. Dr. Yoon Ji-woo was fighting against them. "This human has done nothing wrong," he said. "He has simply thought out loud. He has simply spoken his mind." The precursor system responded because the precursor creators designed it to respond to this kind of thinking. You cannot punish someone for being exactly what the precursor creators were waiting for. The debate went on for many hours, but finally the council made a decision. They would send Min-ho to the Kepler 442 research station. They would let him see the precursor ship. They would let him understand the connection between himself and the ancient technology. They would begin to understand what this meant for humanity's future. When Min-ho was told about the decision, he was both excited and terrified. He had never been to space before. He had never left Earth. And now he was going to travel to a star system that was hundreds of light years away. He was going to see an ancient alien ship. He was going to meet scientists and military officers and important people. Lee Hae-won was also chosen to go. The council thought that her software engineering skills might be useful in understanding the precursor systems, and Min-ho was relieved that he would not have to go alone. As they prepared for the journey, Min-ho thought about the video that had started everything. He thought about the precursor fighter. He thought about the perfect battle tactics. And he thought about how he had been bold enough to say that they could be improved. He had no idea that his words would change the galaxy. He had no idea that they would prove that humanity was something special. He had no idea that he was about to become the most important human in the history of his species. The journey to Kepler 442 took several weeks. Min-ho and Hae-won traveled on a coalition research vessel. The ship was much larger than Min-ho's apartment. It was filled with scientists and military personnel and equipment. Min-ho had never experienced anything like it. He felt small and out of place. During the journey, he was given access to the precursor files. He was allowed to study the ancient computer systems. He was allowed to see the battle footage again and again. Each time he watched it, he saw something new. Each time he analyzed it, he found another way that it could be improved. Hae-won was working on understanding the precursor computer code. She was amazed by the elegance and the complexity of the system. It was like looking at a perfect piece of art, but written in mathematics and technology instead of paint and canvas. She spent hours every day studying the code, trying to understand how it worked, trying to find the hidden messages and the hidden meanings. When they finally arrived at the Kepler 442 system, Min-ho pressed his face against the window to look out at the stars. The ship was moving slowly toward the asteroid field. And there, in the distance, was the Precursor ship. It was even larger than Minho had imagined. In photographs and videos, it had looked big. But seeing it in person, seeing it with his own eyes, made him understand the true scale of the thing. It was not just a ship. It was a floating city. It was a structure that represented millions of years of knowledge and advancement and engineering skill. "It is beautiful," he whispered. The ship landed, and Minho and Haiwan were taken to the interior of the Precursor vessel. They walked through corridors that had been empty for millions of years. They walked past equipment that they did not understand. They walked past displays that showed information in languages that were dead and forgotten, and then they entered the main archive chamber. Kang Tae-o was waiting for them there. Captain Han was waiting. Park Dae-jun was waiting. There were several other scientists there as well. When Minho walked in, everyone turned to look at him. Kang Tae-o stepped forward and held out his hand. "Park Minho," he said. "I am Dr. Kang Tae-o. I want to thank you. Your words have changed everything. Your words have helped us understand something that we have been trying to understand for thousands of years." Minho shook his hand, but he did not feel like a hero. He felt like he had made a mistake. He felt like he had done something wrong by saying that the Precursor tactics could be improved. "I did not mean anything by what I said," Minho said. "I was just joking around. I was just having fun. I did not think anyone would listen to me." "That is exactly why it is important," Park Dae-jun said. He was smiling. The Precursor system was looking for someone who would think freely. Someone who would not be afraid to criticize something that seemed perfect. The system found you. That means you have something special. Captain Han brought Minho and Haiwan to the central computer. She showed them the file that contained the Precursor message. She showed them the words that had been written millions of years ago. She showed them the proof that the Precursor creators had been waiting for someone exactly like Minho to appear. They knew they would fail, Captain Han explained. They knew that their civilization would not last forever, and they left behind a system that would identify the species that could carry their legacy forward, not by copying it, not by worshiping it, but by improving it, by making it better, by thinking beyond what they had already achieved. Minho read the ancient message. He understood that this was not an accident. This was not a mistake. This was a plan that had been created millions of years ago, a plan that had been waiting for him to say the right words at the right moment. "What do you want me to do?" Minho asked. Dr. Yoon Ji-woo, who had arrived at the station the day before, stepped forward. "We want you to keep doing what you have been doing. We want you to study the Precursor technology. We want you to analyze it. We want you to find ways to improve it. We want you to think freely and speak boldly and not be afraid to challenge ancient knowledge." Haiwan was already working at the computer, studying the code. "There are inefficiencies in the propulsion system," she said, pointing at the screen. "The energy distribution is not optimal. If we reconfigured these pathways, we could improve the efficiency by at least 30%. And if we modified the targeting system," Minho added, looking at the battle footage, "we could reduce the response time of the weapons. The Precursor system is waiting for targeting data to be processed before firing, but if we removed that waiting period, we could fire immediately." The scientists began taking notes. They began asking questions. They began having discussions about the improvements that Minho and Haiwan had identified. Captain Han pulled Minho aside. "Do you understand what is happening?" she asked. "I think so," Minho said. "I think the Precursors left behind technology that was waiting for someone like me to find it and make it better." "Yes," Captain Han said. "But do you understand what this means for your species? Do you understand that humanity has just been recognized as worthy? Do you understand that you are about to help your people enter a new age?" Minho had not thought about it that way. He had been thinking about science and technology. He had been thinking about improving systems and making things more efficient. But Captain Han was right. This was much more than that. This was about humanity. This was about Earth. This was about the future of his entire species. That night, Minho stood alone in the archive chamber. He looked at the battle footage again. He looked at the Precursor fighter, moving and fighting and struggling against impossible odds. And he thought about how a young college student from Seoul had managed to see something that millions of Precursor engineers had not seen. It seemed impossible. It seemed like something that should not have happened. But here he was, on an alien ship, studying technology that was older than human civilization, and he was making it better. The universe, he realized, was a very strange place. 3 months had passed since Minho and Haiwan arrived at the Kepler 442 research station. 3 months of studying and analyzing and improving the ancient Precursor technology. 3 months of working with scientists from a dozen different species. 3 months of learning that humans were not as primitive as everyone had thought. The Coalition Council had been watching everything. They had been monitoring the progress that Minho and Haiwan were making. They had been analyzing the improvements that were being made to Precursor technology, and they had been very, very surprised. The improvements were real. The improvements were significant. The improvements were revolutionary. In just 3 months, Minho and Haiwan, working together with the Coalition scientists, had managed to improve the efficiency of Precursor weapons systems by 40%. They had improved the propulsion system by 32%. They had identified 12 different places where the ancient technology could be enhanced. And they had done this by thinking differently, by questioning assumptions, by refusing to worship the past. The Coalition Council called an emergency meeting. They needed to make a decision about humanity. They needed to decide what Earth's place would be in the galactic community. Some council members wanted to keep humans controlled and limited. Some council members wanted to use human thinking to improve all Coalition technology. Some council members wanted to invite humans to become full members of the Coalition. Some council members wanted to learn from humans and then leave them behind on their primitive planet. But in the end, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would be recognized as a species with unique talents. Humans would be invited to join the Coalition as equals. Humans would be allowed to study Precursor technology and help improve it. Humans would be given the opportunity to take their place among the stars. When Minho heard the news, he did not know how to feel. He was excited and scared at the same time. He was happy and worried at the same time. He wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. Dr. Kang Tae-o called him to the archive chamber. When Minho arrived, he found Kang, Captain Han, Park Dae-jun, and Dr. Yoon Ji-woo all waiting for him. They all had serious expressions on their faces. "Park Minho," Dr. Yoon said, "the Coalition Council has made its decision. You and your species will be welcomed into the galactic community. You will be given access to Precursor knowledge. You will be allowed to help improve technology that has been stagnant for millions of years. The Precursor's plan has worked. They have found the species that they were waiting for." Minho felt tears forming in his eyes. He did not know why. He did not know if he was happy or sad or both. "What about Earth?" he asked. "What happens to the people on Earth?" "Your people will be contacted," Captain Han said. "Your government will be informed. Your species will be given the choice to join the Coalition or to remain isolated. But you will no longer be unknown. You will no longer be forgotten. You will take your place in the galaxy." Kang Tae-o stepped forward and placed a hand on Minho's shoulder. "You should be proud," he said. "Your species should be proud. In the entire history of the galaxy, only a few species have been recognized as worthy of Precursor knowledge. You have been given a gift that most civilizations would never receive. Use it wisely." That evening, Minho was given access to the video archives. He was allowed to watch the transmission that was being sent to Earth. It was a message from the Coalition. It explained everything. It explained about the Precursor ship. It explained about Minho and Haiwan. It explained about the improvements that had been made to ancient technology. It explained that humanity had been recognized as a species with unique talents and unique perspectives. The transmission was scheduled to arrive on Earth in exactly 7 hours. In 7 hours, the entire human species would know that they were no longer alone. In 7 hours, everything would change. Minho walked through the corridors of the Precursor ship one more time before the formal ceremonies began. He walked past the ancient equipment. He walked past the displays showing information from a dead civilization. He walked past the artifacts of a people who had known everything except how to survive forever. And finally, he came to the archive chamber where everything had started. He stood in front of the main computer screen. He looked at the battle footage of the Precursor fighter. He looked at the pilot who had been perfect and flawless, but ultimately, in some way, limited by the very perfection of their own designs. Then he reached out and started to mute the audio, the way he had done that first day when he was sitting in his apartment and making jokes about old videos. But he stopped himself. He realized that the audio was important. His voice was important. The fact that he had been willing to criticize and question and suggest improvements, that was important. So instead of muting it, he listened to his own voice again. See how the fighter pivots? That is actually really inefficient. The lateral thrust vectors do not align with, honestly, I sound so pretentious right now. This is embarrassing. And he smiled. Because even though his voice sounded young and uncertain, even though he sounded like he did not know what he was talking about, his words had changed the galaxy. His words had proven that there was a species in the galaxy that was willing to look at perfection and say, yes, but what if we did it this way instead? In that moment, Minho understood his purpose. He understood why the Precursor creators had left behind their technology. They had not left it behind to be preserved. They had not left it behind to be worshipped. They had left it behind to be improved. They had left it behind to inspire new thinking. They had left it behind as a seed, waiting for the right species to make it bloom. And that species was humanity. 7 hours later, the transmission reached Earth. 7 hours later, humanity learned the truth. 7 hours later, the galaxy would never be the same. But on the research station orbiting Kepler 442, Minho was at peace. He had found his purpose. He had found his place in the universe, and his journey was just beginning.